Have you ever wondered why betrayal often comes from those closest to us? What if the pain you're experiencing isn't punishment, but preparation for a greater calling? Could the wounds you carry be the very tools God is using to shape your destiny? There are moments in life when the weight of betrayal crushes your spirit, when the sting of rejection makes you question everything. You cry out to God, asking, "Why would you allow this? Why did you let them hurt me?" But what if I told you that God wanted them to hurt you, not to destroy you, but to develop you? What if the very thing you thought would break you was actually designed to build you? Some of you are standing in a painful season, questioning why God allowed certain people into your life, why He let them wound you so deeply. But hear me, God is not punishing you. Instead, He is carefully positioning you for a purpose far beyond your current understanding. Every tear you've shed, every heartbreak you've endured, every knife that found its way into your back was not outside of His control. He saw it coming, He allowed it, and He is going to use it for His glory. God's ways are higher than ours. We see the hurt. He sees the healing. We feel the pain. He sees the promotion. We want to escape the suffering. He knows that through it, we will emerge stronger. What the enemy intended for your destruction ended up becoming the very catalyst that propelled you closer to the divine purpose God has set aside just for you. So don't give up. Don't let the pain turn you bitter. Instead, let it push you deeper into God's presence. Because one day you'll look back at this moment and say, "It had to happen. If they hadn't hurt me, I wouldn't be who I am today." You didn't see it coming. You trusted them. You loved them. You thought they were for you. And then, one day, they turned on you. They walked away. When you needed the most, they said things that cut you deep, did things that left scars on your soul. And you sat there, broke, wondering why a loving God would let this happen. But listen to me. God saw it before you did. He knew they would betray you. He knew they would reject you. And yet He allowed it, not because He delights in your suffering, but because He has a purpose that is bigger than the pain. You see, sometimes God has to let people break your heart so He can step in and heal it Himself. Sometimes He has to let people abandon you so you can learn that will never leave you nor forsake you. Look at Jesus, one of His own disciples, someone He walked with, ate with, and loved, sold Him out for 30 pieces of silver. Peter, one of His closest friends, denied even knowing Him. When He was carrying the cross, bruised and beaten, the very ones He came to save mocked Him. But every rejection, every betrayal, every moment of pain was leading Him to the fulfillment of His divine purpose. If Jesus had to be betrayed to fulfill His destiny, why do we think we will escape the same process? The rejection you are facing right now is not random. It is divine. The people who hurt you were necessary for your story. If they hadn't turned their backs on you, you would have stayed comfortable. If they hadn't walked away, you wouldn't have drawn closer to God. If they hadn't rejected you, you wouldn't have realized that your worth doesn't come from man. It comes from Him. Stop looking at who left. Stop crying over who betrayed you. Stop questioning why they didn't love you the way you loved them. Instead, lift your head and thank God. Because if they were meant to stay, they would have stayed. If they were part of your destiny, they wouldn't have been removed. They played their role, and now their season is over. Don't let their betrayal define you. Let it refine you. Don't let their rejection make you bitter. Let it make you better. Because one day you'll see the full picture. One day you'll understand why God allowed them to hurt you. And on that day, you won't be crying over what you lost. You'll be praising God for what He prepared for you. Some of you are still holding on to the pain, still replaying the betrayal, still wondering why they did you the way they did. But have you ever considered that, if they had not hurt you, you would still be stuck in a place you were never meant to stay? That if they had not walked away, you would have never moved forward. God had to let them hurt you, because without the pain, you would have never stepped into purpose. Look at Moses. He was raised in Pharaoh's palace, surrounded by luxury and comfort. But when he saw his people suffering, he acted in anger and ended up running for his life. That moment of rejection, being cast out of Egypt, was painful. It felt like failure. It felt like his life was over. But what Moses didn't know was that leaving Egypt wasn't his downfall. It was his call, because in the wilderness, God would meet him in the wilderness. God would shape him. And in the wilderness, God would call him back, not as a prince of Egypt, but as a deliverer of his people. Some of you are crying over people who left you, over situations that pushed you away. But what if God was using it to move you to your next assignment? What if He knew that as long as you stayed comfortable, you would never step into your true calling? Think about it. If Joseph's brothers had never sold him, he would have never ended up in Egypt. If Pipa's wife had not falsely accused him, he would have never been thrown in prison. And if he had never been in prison, he would have never met the man who would later introduce him to Pharaoh. Every painful step, every heartbreak, every injustice was leading him to his destiny. Some people had to reject you so you could get closer to God. Some relationships had to fail so you could walk into your purpose. Some places had to become uncomfortable so you would finally move. Stop trying to go back to what God has already delivered you from. Stop holding on to people God has already removed. Stop resisting the very thing that is pushing you into your destiny. You may not understand it now, but one day you will look back and say, if they hadn't hurt me, I wouldn't be here. If they hadn't betrayed me, I wouldn't have prayed like I did. If they hadn't left me, I wouldn't have discovered who I really am. In Christ, God didn't allow it to destroy you. He allowed it to direct you. The pain was not the end. It was the beginning of something greater. Let it go. Move forward. Your destiny is waiting. You pray for blessings. You pray for favor. But do you know what often comes with it? Opposition, attacks, people rising up against you, and you wonder, God, why are they coming after me? Why am I facing so much resistance? But hear me today, your enemies hold no true power over your destiny. They are not the cause of your defeat, but rather instruments in God's plan for your elevation. In fact, they are a part of God's plan to take you higher. Some of you are facing battles right now that seem unfair. People are talking about you. People are working against you. Doors are closing. It feels like you're under attack from every direction. But could it be that God is using these very attacks to lift you higher? Could it be that your enemies are not here to destroy you, but to promote you? Joseph's brothers hated him, sold him, and thought they were getting rid of him. But in reality, they were just sending him to the place where he would be elevated. The same people who tried to ruin him were the ones who unknowingly positioned him for greatness. Jesus himself faced enemies at every turn. The religious leaders plotted against him. Judas betrayed him. Pilate sentenced him. The crowd shouted, "Crucify him." But had there been no cross, there would have been no resurrection. Had there been no suffering, there would have been no salvation. The very ones who wanted to destroy Jesus ended up fulfilling God's greatest plan for humanity. So stop fearing your enemies. Stop trying to fight battles in your own strength. Stop getting discouraged when people come against you. Instead, start praising God, because if they are coming against you, it means you're going somewhere. If there's a Goliath in front of you, it means there's a kingdom waiting for you. If there's a Judas in your circle, it means there's a resurrection ahead. Your enemies are not your downfall, they are your setup. Let them talk. Let them scheme. Let them betray you. Because when God is for you, it doesn't matter who is against you. The very ones who thought they were burying you are the ones who are actually lifting you. God is using them to take you higher. Keep your eyes on Him. Your elevation is coming. Jesus was betrayed, falsely accused and crucified, yet it was all orchestrated for the fulfillment of God's will. Think about this. Jesus, the Son of God, the Savior of the world, was not spared from betrayal. He was not exempt from suffering. He was falsely accused, beaten, and nailed to a cross. Not because He did anything wrong, but because it was necessary for God's plan. If the sinless Son of God had to endure betrayal to fulfill His purpose, why do we think we won't go through the same? Judas walked with Jesus. He saw the miracles. He heard the teachings. He ate at the same table. And yet, for 30 pieces of silver, he handed Jesus over to be crucified. But what Judas didn't realize was that his betrayal wasn't destroying Jesus. It was setting up the greatest victory in history. The cross looked like the end, but it was just the beginning. What the enemy meant for evil, God turned into salvation for all who believe. Some of you are wondering why. Why God allowed people so close to you to hurt you. Why He let someone you trusted turn against you. But hear this. If Jesus needed a Judas to get to the cross, you may need a Judas to get to your purpose. That betrayal wasn't random. It was divine. The Pharisees thought they had won when they falsely accused Him. The Roman soldiers thought they had the final say when they nailed Him to the cross. The crowd thought they had silenced Him when they mocked Him as He suffered. But 3 days later, the stone was rolled away, and Jesus walked out of the grave with all power in His hands. What they thought was His defeat was actually His victory. The same is true for you. The lies they told about you, the pain they caused, the wounds they left, it all felt like an attack, but God is turning it into an anointing. They may have pushed you down, but God is getting ready to raise you up. They thought they were burying you, but they didn't realize that a seed must be buried before it grows into something greater. So don't despise the betrayals. Don't let the false accusations shake you. Don't give up because people have turned against you. If they did it to Jesus, they'll do it to you. But just like Jesus, you will rise again. And when you do the same, people who thought they had defeated you will have to watch as God fulfills His purpose in your life. The cross wasn't the end. It was the pathway to glory. And your suffering isn't your end. It's your setup for something greater. Some doors only open after suffering, and some blessings only come through wounds. Nobody likes pain. Nobody likes suffering. When we go through hardships, we pray for God to remove them, to take the burden away. But what if I told you that some doors will only open in your life because of what you've suffered? That some of the greatest blessings you will ever receive will only come through the wounds you've endured. Some of you are carrying wounds from people who hurt you, from betrayals that cut you deep, from seasons that nearly broke you. And you keep asking God, why? Why did you let this happen? But what if that very wound is the key that will unlock your next level? What if the pain you went through is the doorway to the purpose God has for you? Jesus was nailed to the cross, his body broken, his hands and feet wounded, but through those wounds salvation came to the world. Thomas, one of his disciples, didn't believe Jesus had risen until he saw the wounds in his hands. It was the scars, the marks of suffering, that proved the power of resurrection. Your scars tell a story. The suffering you've endured is not in vain. There are doors God is getting ready to open in your life, but they require you to go through the fire first. Just like gold is refined in the flames, just like a diamond is formed. Under pressure, your pain is producing something far greater than you can see right now. You may not understand it now, but one day you will look back and see that the suffering wasn't meant to destroy you. It was meant to prepare you. The very thing that wounded you is the thing God will use to bless you. The very thing that broke you is what He will use to build you. Don't despise your suffering. Don't curse your wounds, because through them God is about to open doors that no man can shut. Too many people believe that when they go through suffering it must be because God is angry with them, that they did something wrong, that they are being punished. But let me tell you today, your pain is not God's punishment. It is His preparation. What you are going through is not meant to destroy you. It is meant to prepare you for something greater. Look at Job. He was a righteous man, yet he lost everything. His wealth, his health, his children. His friends told him he must have sinned, that God was punishing him. But God wasn't punishing Job. He was preparing him for a greater revelation of His power and faithfulness. And in the end, Job received double for everything he lost. Some of you are in a season of pain right now, and the enemy is whispering in your ear, God has abandoned you. God is punishing you. But hear me, if God was done with you, He wouldn't be preparing you. The very fact that you are going through hardship means that God is still working in your life. He is strengthening you. He is molding you. He is teaching you to trust Him like never before. Jesus Himself endured suffering, not because He was being punished, but because He was being prepared before He stepped into His public ministry. He was led into the wilderness to be tested before He stepped into His greatest victory. He had to endure the cross if suffering was part of Jesus' journey. Why do we think we will escape it? Your pain is not in vain. God is using it to make you stronger, to build an endurance in you, to prepare you for what's coming next. And when you come out on the other side, you will see that what felt like suffering was actually shaping you for the destiny God had already planned. So hold on, don't give up. This is not the end of your story. It is the preparation for your next chapter. When you go through pain, it can feel pointless. The betrayal, the rejection, the heartache. It can seem like nothing good could ever come from it. But listen to me. God does not waste suffering. He takes the very thing that was meant to break you and turns it into the very thing that empowers you. Look at Peter. He denied Jesus 3 times. He wept bitterly, ashamed, broken feeling, like he had failed. But did God discard him? No, instead, after the resurrection, Jesus restored Peter and used him to preach the first great revival, where thousands came to Christ. His failure became the foundation of his greatest calling. Paul had a thorn in his flesh, a constant struggle, and he pleaded with God to take it away. But God said, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." In other words, God didn't remove the suffering, He transformed it. He turned Paul's pain into power, making him one of the greatest apostles the world has ever known. And then there's Jesus. The cross was suffering the nails, the thorns, the mockery. Everything about it was meant to bring shame and destruction. But God didn't waste that suffering. He transformed it. What was supposed to be a symbol of defeat became the greatest symbol of victory the world has ever seen. Some of you have gone through things that nearly crushed you. You've been betrayed by people you trusted. You've been wounded by words spoken against you. You've faced loss, rejection, and heartbreak. But let me tell you something, none of it was wasted. God, in His infinite wisdom and love, is transforming your deepest suffering into a powerful and life-changing testimony that will not only uplift you, but inspire countless others. The very thing that wounded you is what He will use to bless others. The very place where you were broken is where He will show His greatest power. So don't let your pain make you bitter. Let it make you stronger. Don't let your suffering define you. Let God refine you. Because when He is done, you will look back and realize that every tear, every struggle, and every battle was leading you to a place of greater power, greater purpose, and greater victory. God does not waste suffering. He transforms it into glory. You prayed for God's will in your life. You asked Him to bless you, to take you higher, to use you for His glory. But then, people started walking away. Friends turned against you. Relationships crumbled. People you thought would always be there suddenly disappeared. And you asked God why. But hear me today. When God is getting ready to take you to the next level, He starts removing people who can't go with you. Some people were only meant to be in your life for a season. Some relationships were holding you back. More than you realize, some connections were distractions disguised as friendships. And God in His wisdom knew that if they stayed, they would keep you from the destiny He is prepared for you. Look at Gideon. He started with an army of 320,000 men ready to go to battle. But God told him, "You have too many." And God kept removing people until Gideon was left with only 300 soldiers. Why? Because if he had won with thousands, the people would have taken the credit. But when God stripped His army down to almost nothing, it made it clear, this victory belongs to the Lord. Some of you are mourning over who left. You're holding on to people God is already removed. But what if their departure was part of God's plan? What if the very thing you're crying over is what God used to set you free? Think about Abraham. God told him to go to a land He would show him. But Abraham made a mistake. He brought Lot with him. And as long as Lot was around, there was trouble. There was strife. That was confusion. But the moment Lot left, God spoke. The moment Lot was gone, the promise became clearer. Some of you haven't heard from God because you're still holding on to your Lot. Jesus had thousands who followed Him, but only 12 disciples. And even among the 12, He had Peter, James, and John, His inner circle. When He went up the mountain to be transfigured, He didn't take all 12. He only took 3. Why? Because not everyone is meant to go with you to the next level. Stop chasing after people God has removed. Stop trying to reopen doors that God has shut. If they were meant to stay, they would have stayed. If they left, it's because their part in your story is over. And that's okay. Because when God removes, He also replaces. When He takes something away, it's because He's making room for something greater. Let them go. Trust God's plan. The right people, the right opportunities, the right relationships. Everything you need for your next season will be sent by God. You don't have to chase it. You just have to be ready for it. There are seasons in life where it feels like you're all alone. Friends stop calling people you once relied on disappear. You look around, and it feels like everyone else is moving forward, while you are stuck in a place of silence, of waiting, of isolation, and you ask God, God, why am I alone? Why does it feel like no one understands what I'm going through? But let me tell you, today your isolation is not abandonment, it is preparation. Look at David before he ever fought Goliath, before he ever wore a crown. He was in the fields alone, tending sheep. No one saw him, no one applauded him, but it was in that isolation that he learned to fight. The lion and the bear. It was in that hidden place that he learned to trust God. His private battles prepared him for a public victory. And look at Jesus before he began his ministry. The Spirit led him into the wilderness, 40 days of isolation, of testing, of preparation. And when he came out of that season, he walked in power. Some of you are in a season of isolation right now, and the enemy is trying to make you believe that you have been forgotten, that no one sees you, that you have no purpose. But listen, God sees you, and this season is not wasted. It is necessary. He's removing distractions, pulling you away from the noise, so that he can prepare you for what's next. You see, when God calls you higher, he will often separate you first. He will take you into a season where it's just you and him, because before he can use you publicly, he has to build you privately. Before he places you in your destiny, he has to strengthen your character before he opens doors. He has to make sure you are ready to walk through them. Don't despise the quiet season. Don't rush the process. Your isolation is not punishment, it is preparation. And when God is finished, when he has refined you, strengthened you, and filled you with his power, you will step into your destiny with a confidence that only comes from knowing God himself has prepared you for this moment. Stay faithful, stay ready, because when this season ends, you won't recognize the person you have become. You will be stronger, wiser, and ready for the next level. God has for you. Sometimes the very people who try to destroy you are the ones God will use to promote you. You don't have to fight for your place, prove yourself, or seek revenge. God knows how to prepare a table for you in the presence of your enemies. He knows how to take what was meant for evil and turn it into a testimony that even your enemies will have to witness. Look at Joseph. His brothers hated him, threw him into a pit, and sold him into slavery. They thought they had buried him, but they were actually setting him up for the palace years later. When famine struck, the same brothers who betrayed him had to come and bow before him, not knowing that the one they had thrown away was now the one who held the key to their survival. Look at Daniel. His enemies set a trap to get him thrown into the lion's den. They thought they had silenced him, but God shut the mouths of the lions, and the next morning Daniel was lifted out unharmed, while his enemies were thrown into the very trap they had set for him. And look at Jesus. The religious leaders plotted against him. Judas betrayed him. The crowd shouted, "Crucify him." They thought they had defeated him. They thought the cross was his end. But 3 days later, he rose in power, proving that what they meant for his destruction was actually the fulfillment of God's greatest plan. And now the name of Jesus is lifted above every name. His enemies may have put him in the grave, but his resurrection announced his elevation. Some of you are surrounded by people who are trying to bring you down. They are lying about you. They are plotting against you. They are hoping to see you fail. But hear me. They don't have the final say. The same people who counted you out will have to watch as God lifts you up. The same people who tried to bury you will have to witness your breakthrough. David said, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies." Psalm 23:05. That means your enemies are not a sign that you're losing. They're a sign that God is getting ready to bless you. Because the only way they can see your table is if God allows them to stay and watch. So don't waste time fighting battles that belong to the Lord. Don't try to prove yourself to people who are determined to misunderstand you. Let them talk. Let them scheme. Let them think they've won, because soon God is going to will lift you up. And when He does, even your enemies will have no choice but to see His hand on your life. Stay faithful. Stay focused. Your elevation is coming. There are some wounds that cut so deep. You wonder if you'll ever heal some betrayals that break you so badly. You feel like you'll never recover. You've cried in the midnight hour asking God why He allowed you to go through so much. But hear this today. Your deepest pain is about to become your greatest testimony. The very thing that tried to destroy you is what God will use to deliver you. Look at Paul before he became a great apostle. He was Saul, a persecutor of Christians, a man filled with hatred and violence. But on the road to Damascus, God knocked him down, blinded him, and transformed his life. The same man who once caused suffering became the very one preaching about salvation. His past could have disqualified him, but instead, God used it to glorify His name. Look at Hannah. She was barren, mocked, and ridiculed. She cried out to God in deep anguish, pouring out her soul. And in that place of pain, God heard her and gave her Samuel, a prophet, who would anoint kings. Her suffering wasn't wasted. It was part of God's greater plan. And look at Jesus, the nails in His hands, the wounds in His side, the agony of the cross. It was suffering beyond imagination, but out of that pain came the greatest victory the world has ever known. His scars became proof of His resurrection. His wounds became the testimony of redemption. Some of you have been through things you never thought you'd survive. You've carried pain that no one knows about. But let me tell you, God sees you, and He is not going to let that pain go. To waste the thing that hurt you the most is what He will use to help others. The storm that nearly took you out is what will give you the strength to stand and declare, "I am still here." By the grace of God, your testimony is being written. Even in your pain, what you thought was breaking you was actually building you. The suffering was not for nothing. It was for the glory that is coming. So don't hide your scars. Don't be ashamed of your story, because soon the very thing that hurt you will become the very thing that helps someone else find. Healing your greatest pain is about to become your greatest testimony. And when you stand and tell your story, people won't see the wounds anymore. They will see the glory of God all over your life. My friend, everything you have been through, every wound, every betrayal, every tear has not been wasted. You may not understand it now, but God has been working behind the scenes using every bit of your suffering to shape you, refine you, and prepare you for something far greater than you can imagine. The people who hurt you, they were part of the plan. Man, the pain you endured, it was necessary for your growth. The doors that closed, they were never meant for you. What looked like rejection was actually divine protection. What felt like suffering was actually the foundation for your elevation. Joseph's betrayal led to his breakthrough. Job's suffering led to his double portion. David's rejection led to his reign, and Jesus' crucifixion led to his resurrection. You are not the exception. Your pain has a purpose. So today, I challenge you, stop looking at your wounds as signs of defeat. Start seeing them as proof that God's hand is on your life. Stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start declaring, God is using this for my good, because He is. And He will, one day. The very people who doubted you will see you walking in the blessings of God. The very ones who hurt you will watch as God lifts you up. And when you stand in the place He has prepared for you, you will look back and realize every bit of the pain was worth it. Stay strong, stay faithful, keep trusting, because your story is not over. And when God gets finished, what was meant to break, you will become the very thing that blesses you.